This has been the story for decades. Africa is poor. Africa is barren. Africa is dusty. Granted, Africa can get dusty and we have gravel roads galore, but Africa is not poor. Even more, there is a gaping opportunity on our doorstep for growth in Africa. What is this opportunity, and what does it mean for us value creators and difference makers? Today, we are joined once more by Liron Leiboff, CASA and Senior Financial Analyst at Osiris Trading. We chat about the Africa opportunity and why Africa is the last frontier of growth in the world. We also chat about why money earned is better than money given, the great fallacy called luck, why investing in yourself is the greatest hedge against inflation, and more. I hope you enjoy. My travelers on the road to CASA. Very, very first one. Guys, if you have been getting value from the show, value, please, I only ask if you have been receiving to give a review, a rating, whether that be 4-star. I saw one 4-star review. I'm like, hey, it was 1 4-star review. I think it was on Spotify or one of the platforms. But I mean, come on, guys. This is the best show for aspiring CA. So a 5-star review, I'm saying this from an unbiased perspective, of course, is warranted. But yeah, if you've been getting the value that I hope to share with you through these amazing journeys, please go and give a rating, whichever platform you're on, just quickly now or whenever you can, man. I'd really appreciate it. If you have not already, check out part 1, 2, or 3, all linked in the show notes. With that, on to part 4. I actually wanted to turn to Africa. You've seen a side to it. A lot of us have not seen a huge side to it. You know, you've been around, and you obviously work for a Pan-African group. Is the future bright? I've heard a lot about Africa in terms of the population, and very interestingly, we are in the coming decades, we are the youngest, and therefore we are the only youth, or rather the only population, the population with the highest working age people, which is very interesting, meaning, and there's a lot of macroeconomics that are correlated with this, we have a lot of earning potential, GDP production potential. But yeah, what is your perspective on the continent?
Yeah, I mean, from a structural perspective, Africa really is the last frontier of growth and it's pretty undeniable, unless Elon and all these other guys succeed in making all these robots that can just produce things as well. So the only reason these companies are sprouting about is because of the high labor costs in first world countries, low labor participation rate. Everyone's pretty much middle class and whatever, and like most people's basic needs are taken care of in those countries, which means people are like having less kids. I read an article about I can't remember the area, but dog prams were outselling human prams in this one area, right? Which is insane. Like, I mean, yeah, for anyone listening who doesn't know what a pram is, it's a stroller. Like you push your baby in. So in
and
a
Liron,
certain
I've
area,
been
I
talking
think it was in
about
the
this with my friends. Dogs are dangerous because they're replacing kids today. That's my. I love a cute pug. Hey,
Yeah.
I won't lie. If I wasn't aware of this danger, I'd have a pug. But they'll replace your kid.
No, it's not even hyperbole. We like in the data, and if I think it was a Wall Street Journal, it was like some legit publication was writing that dog strollers are outselling human strollers, which is not, which is like, I guess, a funny statistic or a funny headline to come across. But like, if you think about the implications of it, there can only be growth where there's population growth, right? Like I mean, at least that's what we used to. We used to GDP growth through a combination of population growth and output, increasing output through efficiency and mechanization and automation and all that kind of stuff. But the bedrock of all economies are consumers. There have to be goods and services that you and I and individuals consume, right? Yes, there are a lot of B2B companies that sell software and whatever to other businesses. But the common denominator is that all these businesses exist to serve consumers ultimately, right? If the consumer is not consuming, think back to COVID, if people are not consuming goods and services, those companies do not exist. Sure. Right? So if people are not traveling, the airlines do not exist. If there aren't enough people, if let's say the birth rate's going down, and granted longevity is going up, or expected life expectancies are going up in the first world and the globally, generally speaking. But that's a very different economy. That's an economy where you need a lot of golf courses, you need a lot of kind of leisure and entertainment, healthcare certainly. I mean, the biggest career growth or volume of opportunities forecast in the next couple of decades is actually in nursing in the US.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you look at all of these things together, from a macro perspective, it can only be Africa as the next growth frontier. But I have to also caution, like, to come to that conclusion, we have to like look at the past, and the past is not the same as the world that we live in now. So like there are these countries and these companies now creating AI and robots and things that can and will replace a lot of manual labor. So if that is the case, then we may end up with a bunch of robot factories in first world countries, ultimately producing the output that is needed for consumers. And at which point, like, you don't need to really outsource manufacturing or those types of jobs to Africa. And if the population growth is slowing, well, then we probably need less farmland, and we need less and less and less. And like I'm more worried about what's the opposite of inflation? Stagflation or deflation?
Deflation, yeah.
Because deflation, in a world where everyone's in debt and these countries are just like swimming in debt, and if it's a deflationary environment, that debt just spirals into complete bankruptcy and anarchy and turmoil. So like that's like something I'm more worried about, at least like in the macro environment. But like Africa's a complex place, and like I've really realized this like through working with a bunch of the other countries, at least in my organization. The amount of inefficiencies and which creates opportunity, of course. But the amount of inefficiencies is actually like quite incredible. Like like it's really almost like going in a time machine and seeing what past used to be like, where like, for example, to get, I won't name the country, but to get dividends or money out of a certain country, you have to send the documents signed in wet ink, couriered through to that country, to the Reserve Bank. Like in 2024, you know what I'm saying? So like you almost need to think about like how far behind are certain countries, and then like rewind our recent kind of knowledge or where we are now or where we were 10 or 20 years ago, and go implement those solutions from 10 or 20 years ago in like certain African countries. Like you can probably like make a lot of money that way. Because like some of these guys are really like far behind, and you know, a lot of these countries really still rely on like farming, agriculture, and mineral and metals output, and not you know, like a financial services sector that we have in South Africa, or like fintech, innovation, telcos, that kind of stuff. It's pretty nascent in certain countries. So there's a lot of capital investment that needs to take place. There's a lot of investment needed in education and upskilling and training. And change in certain, like, I mean, Africa is spoken about almost as like one country. People like don't realize like it is so vast, and it's just so many different countries with different governments with competing interests and incentives, and a lot of them are, you know, only a few decades post colonization. I think there were quite a few Independence Days recently, like national holidays in a couple of our subsidiary companies. Like we're only a couple of decades after independence, and like we're still, I guess, trying to figure out how to govern ourselves, what's important to us as Africans, and how to create like sustainable economic growth through different products and services and exports than we're used to. Because I think when these countries were colonized, like, cool, Malawi is, you know, you produce sugar and tobacco, you know, DRC, you produce that commodity, you guys produce that commodity, and like all of this is pretty much like whatever in service of either the British Empire or the French or whatever. And now, like, we're only like 5 decades later, like, cool, like, here's your land, and govern yourselves. And like, I think everyone's still kind of unwinding those colonial or scar tissue and figuring out, okay, like how do we create, you know, a future for ourselves, and what value and what value we can we create, what products and services can we create, how are we uniquely positioned in the world, you know, where we can capture some of this value for ourselves. And it's really just, it's similar decision making to like any single human being, really. And I think that you're just like watching it at a macro level, at a government level. So yeah, it's not simple. It's like not like you can open the tap and Africa will just blossom. Like India and China were unique because they're single countries with a single government that can kind of mobilize and legislate and cut red tape. Like Africa is just really a bunch of different countries on one continent, with different governments that have different values.
Sure.
So it's not like I'm cautiously optimistic, but there are a lot of structural barriers that have to come down, and yeah, a lot of investment that needs to come in, and I think we've seen a lot of investment coming from China and the US, and that creates the reciprocity in alliances and who African countries tie themselves to from an ideological perspective, whether it's communist-leaning China or capitalist-leaning United States. And so geopolitically speaking, it's pretty complex. And I think if, like, I'm not advocating for, like, some, like, South Africa or some government to be like the government of Africa, and everyone's like just, Africa just becomes one country. I think that wouldn't work. But we can't look at the case of China and India and say, oh, that must happen in Africa, because it's pretty different structures. And I think some African countries will do better than others, like significantly better. And I think we've seen that. And I think, I think it'll be very interesting to see the alliances play out. Who kind of aligns more with the, China, Russia's of the world, and who aligns more with the kind of West. And again, that will come down to reciprocity, and money will talk. Whoever invests the most, whose bread I eat, his song I sing, kind of scenario. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think there's fantastic opportunity in the continent. I think creating a business or buying a business or being involved in a business that operates in a lot of these countries, you're well positioned, at least as an individual, to capitalize on when the taps do open, or if they do open. Like, I think it's going to be a scarce sought after skill / experience when the stars kind of align, to be like CFO CEOs of these kind of Pan-African businesses, where there are subsidiaries all over the place, and different cultures, different ways of working. But if you've already had that experience, I think you'll be paid. There'll be a premium for those types of individuals and candidates. And that's, I mean, when we're talking about thinking in bets, that's the bet I'm kind of making career-wise. Like, if I don't end up starting my own thing, or any other, like, my side hustles taking off, well, my hedged bet is actually, like, potentially going to be quite lucrative, because this is the thesis of why I joined this business, and the skills that I'm trying to acquire, and the network I'm trying to acquire. And so, I mean, I said a lot there. It's a lot of geopolitical stuff, a lot of kind of macro stuff. I don't think I forecasted anything, but I think from a decision-making standpoint, I'm trying to put myself in the best position should I've got entrepreneurial interests, but I've also got a potential career that and skill set and network that may be more valuable than average in a couple of years' time.
Cautiously optimistic. That is positive.
Yeah.
I'll take it. You also have to in some way close us off. You have some very interesting quotes. So I'm just gonna say it, and we can just riff off of that. You can just explain a little bit of the quote, and we can chat about it. I'm gonna start with this one, the most recent one. There's nothing more expensive than that which comes free.
Yeah. I think, well, when was that? Like a couple of days ago, or like last week, or
Last week.
Yeah, and I'll write these quotes on LinkedIn more as like a reminder to myself, so that, like, there's almost a public catalog of the things that I've read or heard or whatever that I think is interesting and I would like to share. In terms of the quote, I mean, you've seen it with people who win the lottery. It ruins their lives, right? It ruins most people's lives who win the lottery. It's not a joke, because there's nothing more expensive than that which comes free. So there's an influx of cash that you didn't work for. Therefore, there is no value to that money. Money is only valuable if you have earned it. So the money comes in. These people, lottery winners feel extremely rich for a time. It gets spent and squandered because they don't have the money keeping skills, because they've never been in that position before, right? So you don't have the skills to allocate that capital in a way that can sustain you for the rest of your life. So you buy Bentleys and you buy mansions and everyone gets a car and everyone gets a house. And then in year 3, you're out of money. And then everything gets repossessed and you're back to the way you were before you won the lotto. That is a very expensive lesson to learn, and a very, very painful one. So that I think that's probably the best example of that. There are a couple of other examples, like if you somehow talk your way into a high-paying job without having the credentials or the experience, you're going to have an expensive lesson, and you're going to tarnish your reputation. And because that thing came free, you didn't deserve that role. Either it came through nepotism or however it came about, but you're going to get a very expensive lesson as a result of that. But I think the lottery example is probably more on point with that quote.
The big takeaway is really, I think what you can operationally do with that is to build yourself. Because I think if you have been building yourself, maybe by the time it always comes back to. So I've written about this. I haven't written fully about it, but luck is this great fallacy. I don't like it when people just say, "Oh, you're so lucky." They love to attribute, successes to luck, but really, there really is no such thing as luck. Because would you call the person who won the lottery and went bust after 3 years lucky?
Yeah, I think. You touched on something very interesting there as well. I think it was also in the Thinking in Bets book. When I'm describing someone else, their fortune was lucky, and their misfortune was based off of their own deeds. Right? They deserved their misfortune, but they were lucky for their fortune. But when I'm describing myself, I will tell you that I'm deserving of my fortune. Like, I worked really hard, or I'm smarter than average, or whatever the case may be. And my misfortune was an act of fate and not, or the universe, or something random. So when describing others, we tend to invert that and say they are wealthy, or they got a promotion or whatever because they were lucky, or they went bankrupt, or their solar business is in business rescue because they are inept, or like they're just bad business people. But when I'm describing myself, I'm smart, I'm a great business person because I'm worth XYZ. Or this bad thing happened to me. It happened to me. I didn't do anything to cause it to happen to me. It's fate, or the universe, or whatever the case may be. So I think it's just a coping mechanism where that, I guess it can also be put into the mental model framework, but it's a coping mechanism that people use to justify other people's fortune or misfortune and our own fortune and misfortune, and it makes us feel better
Mm,
by inverting the luck versus deserved fortune slash misfortune.
mm. It's our way of, in a way, and not to say, because I do believe we're all on some level equal, but I mean, dude, I'm not Patrice Motsepe. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but it's our way of coping with our feeling of inferiority, because
Yes.
in some way it's us it's us shying, or it's us blinding ourselves from the reality that we are not doing the things that can get us to the places that we want to go. So it's like, no, they're just lucky because, I couldn't do that. And if I were to go and chase my dream and get $1 million and become whatever, you know, no, that's not possible. It's just lucky. He's just lucky. I remember this just one time I was chatting with some of my peers, and this one girl who she was saying, basically, there's this one CEO of a particular company, and she heard her speak. So she was a woman of color. So that was sort of the correlation, the relation that was made, and so she's a big form of inspiration and representation to show girls of color that you can make it to this huge level. So she's CEO of this big company. And she's like, when she explained the story of how she became CEO, it was just like all luck. And immediately my mind went, ah. And I was like, okay, luck how? Right? So, okay, let's what was the story? And then she goes, oh no. She it's like she got put on by her mentor, and then this person, and I'm like, oh, okay. She knows how to network. That's how she got there. And so
Yeah.
people will always reduce success to luck in order to sort of cope with their own shortcomings. That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I can share a fable that also
Mm,
illustrates this concept of cognitive dissonance, where
yeah.
there was a there's a fox in a forest, and he goes and he sees a tree with grapes at the top of the tree, and these grapes look delicious, and he wants to get these grapes, and the fox can't get these grapes, and he's like after trying so hard and whatever, like he gives up, and then he says to himself, "Well, the grapes must have been sour anyway. I don't even want them," and he walks away. So that's the cognitive dissonance that people use to feel better about not achieving goals, or fortune not happening to them, or whatever, by saying, I don't even want that. I didn't even want to be CEO because I want work-life balance, or um,
Mm,
it's immoral to
yeah.
work so hard and neglect your family. So I'm like, so people use that cognitive dissonance to justify certain things, and it's extremely powerful because you believe it. Like, you make yourself believe it. Um,
Yeah.
and like, a lot of capitalists um, make fun of communists or socialists by saying, like, if you guys were rich, like, you wouldn't be socialists. So it's like almost like cognitive dissonance in there, in the socialist eyes, but like, by labeling capitalists and wealthy people, who most of them have created an incredible amount of value in this world and deserve every cent
Mm,
they've gotten, but they
mm,
labeled as evil, and uh,
mm,
as exploitative and all that kind of stuff, because the socialists may not have had the skills in order to have become that themselves. So they go polar opposite and say, I've never ever wanted that, and they virtue signal and blah, 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 blah. So I think it's also important for people to recognize their own cognitive dissonance in themselves as well as others, and be situationally aware.
Oh, yeah. Cognitive dissonance. That's another word for the dictionary, guys. Um, Basically, if just for those who haven't Googled it already, it's when your actions don't align with your beliefs. So you
Yeah.
believe X, but you don't do Y that aligns with your beliefs. So let's say you believe that studying is really important, and now you're not studying. So it's like there's that existential angst where you feel like, hey, you feel like it's that imposter syndrome sometimes. Sometimes you're like, you're an imposter. No, it's also because you're not doing what you believe. But that's actually I think for another time. Live for your eulogy, not for your CV. You said this in our introductory convo, not on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I think I heard that quote on a TED talk, where the speaker said, "Live for your eulogy and not your CV." And basically, that's really just saying, people will remember you for how you made them feel versus what you really did. Meaning, regardless of your kind of professional path or what you've done to earn money, or what you've done for your vocation or avocation. What's really important is your relationship and how you made people feel while you were on this planet, and the kind of character that you were, and the person that you were. Your CV is really just a record of the things you've done, the projects you've been part of, the companies you worked for, the businesses you built. It's really just a record. Your eulogy is more how you kind of did those things, how you made people feel, how people will remember you. And if you kind of use that as a framework of how to live your life, I think you'll have a richer life than if you were just living it to rack up an impressive CV with a bunch of logos that really mean nothing at the end of the day. So yeah, that's kind of that framework of live for your eulogy versus your CV.
Focusing on not what you do for people, but how you make people feel. I think that's huge because like there's one thing giving monetary value. It's like could even think about it like this. You could be such a great manager, right? In terms of managing expenses. You could be the best financial manager. You cut costs all day. You can cut costs in your sleep, type of thing. But if the people around you, the people that you're managing, if they don't feel like they've been added to in terms of themselves, then your influence stops on the balance sheet. It stops on
Yeah.
the blocky, stops on paper, and it doesn't have that ripple effect that holistic influence has. So when you touch a life and not just the things that the life is attached to. So like, even when you're doing business with someone, they are let's say you are selling you are selling, I don't know, it could be something so mundane. You are selling laptops. People are buying your laptops not for a 600 gigabyte SSD and an 8 gigabyte RAM processor. They're not buying it for that. They're buying it for their education. They're buying it so that they can I don't know, start pursuing their artistic crafts and their artistic interests. They're buying
Yeah.
it for the things that make them, add value or human in some cases. So when you're connecting to the how you make people feel as opposed to the what you do for people, you're starting to like transcend the CV and get to the eulogy. Now that's huge. Another one. The best inflation hedge, investing in yourself and increasing your value into society. Yeah, this one is powerful.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. I actually forgot about that one.
It's huge,
And
man.
that is timeless. It is so true because
Timeless.
yeah, I mean, like if you're worried about inflation, like yeah, sure, you can buy some Kruger Rands and think that gold is a great inflation hedge. But at the end of the day, like if you invest that same amount in like some courses that will turbocharge your efficiency at work or enable you to provide more
Mm,
value in your business or um, whatever the case may be, like you're going to way outperform that gold asset class just through pure earning power.
yeah.
And you just add like that compound effect of adding to your value and your knowledge and your network and all these things that may feel like you can't quantify them. So like
Mm,
I think it almost feels safer to put it in your cash in Kruger Rands because like you can feel them, you can quantify it, you can check the gold
mm,
price and value what you invested and calculate that ROI. It's almost more certain, but the higher return is 100% to be investing in yourself and acquiring more skills, not in a haphazard and unstructured way without like any ultimate purpose. Like I wouldn't go and just buy all these Udemy courses and watch 5% of them. Or like you're not going to like you've obviously got to put in the work and it's got to
mm,
make sense for either your job or the job that you want to get or the business that you have built or the business that you want to build. It's got to make sense in your context,
mm,
but it's way, way, way more valuable to invest in yourself than to invest in, another inflation hedge type of asset like a property or a gold that will kind of beat inflation slightly, but investing in yourself, you'll way, way, way outperform that, and by leaps and bounds.
And there's this. I was thinking about it the other day. There's this obsession with measurement that we have as people. Like we always want to measure things. Um, I realized that like so I don't measure as maybe stringently as I should. Maybe I know Peter Drucker, he was like a management consultant back in the
Yeah.
80s, 70s. Yeah, he wrote an amazing book that I read earlier this year, Managing Oneself. He says, what gets measured gets managed, right? Makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I'm just more concerned about what problem am I solving. Um, I feel like measurement only helps if it solves a problem. And I think about self improvement, right? So there was this guy Andrew Kirby. He's also another internet business entrepreneur dude. I think he works for Alex Hormozy now. Funny. He said it was like so profound. He said entrepreneurship is the ultimate self improvement, and here's what it's prefaced by: self improvement. It's if you go into YouTube, it's if you go on YouTube, it's journaling. It's gratitude journaling. It's waking up at 5. It's cold showers. It's all these things, that are self improvement. But what he found is that he was consuming and consuming and consuming, and his life just wasn't getting better. And the reason why is because I think there was this mental shift around, no, it's actually not about doing these things, it's about solving your problems. So self-improvement is not a function of going out and improving yourself. It's actually a function of going out and solving your problems. If you have a problem with sleep, you need to start having a sleep regimen. You need to go and do some research on sleep. Maybe you need to lower the temperature. Maybe it's really hot in your room. Maybe you need to just set a specific time, wake up at a specific time, and start a routine. These are little things that might solve your problem. Maybe you don't have a problem with sleep. Maybe you have a problem with exercise. And you need to start learning a little bit about that, about how to make it fun, how to make sure it's sustainable, etc., etc. But it's always about what is your problem. So to come back to this idea of investing in yourself, what are your interests and curiosities? What are those problems, questions that are in your mind? And that is a great place to start as to where you invest. So if you are really interested in, you could literally be interested in highlighters. You'd be like, yo, I love highlighters. I'm so obsessed with highlighters. Go do some research on highlighters. Go. Maybe there's a dude out there. Go search up the highlighter course on Udemy and learn everything about highlighters and the intricacies of highlighters. And you'll find actually, as you keep going down the rabbit hole, you start learning about study tips, and then now you can actually start a business training people in studying or whatever it could be. But the main thing is that you're learning how to make money before you're learning how to make money. You're learning how to build yourself, you know? The next
Yeah, I
one
think
is the last one.
people do like uncertainty, and they look to others to tell them what to do, and want a definitive return on invested or return on time invested and whatever. And that's why I guess the university system is so kind of entrenched globally, where we kind of go and learn some skills for a couple. We don't really learn skills; you just learn theory for a couple of years, and then you go learn the
Yeah.
skills um, in the workplace. And that's kind of how we train. We just train to, you know, I'm spending this money for this outcome. Like, I know that I will get articles after spending whatever. I don't know how much varsity costs these days, but I'll, you know, it's pretty laid out for you. I'll be earning this much in first year, this much in second year, this much in third year. A qualified CA earns this much. Okay, so like I can pretty much quantify the ROI of the CA path. Doing other things, like following your curiosity, following like bettering yourself, like I think people are like looking around for like someone to guide them and like tell them like this will generate additional earning power, like definitively, like this will add 10,000 rand a month to your salary, like, and you're not going to get that. So and that's like, you've almost got to like take your path into your own hands. Know that no one else is going to tell you what to do. Like that chapter of your life is over, of studying articles. Like once you get out of articles, like you've got to divorce that framework of how to be. And I think a lot of people get caught up in, okay, I need to do CFA, I need to do MBA, I need to do all of these things because like I'm in this perpetual cycle of getting designations because that's what I've been taught to do in the past. So now I need to carry on doing that because that's the only way to get a promotion or get whatever. And that's false, patently false. And you've just got to like follow your curiosity, add to your skill set that's relevant to you, that's relevant to the business you're involved in or to a business that you're thinking of starting, and have the faith that you can unlock that ROI yourself. It's not going to be given to you.
Back yourself. People, that is a huge thing that you have to. Thinking in bets, I'll always bet on myself. That's the one thing you've gotta have in the back of your
Yeah.
mind. This one is like, yo, dude. This one, I thought about. I said, and I was like, this one is crazy. So this is how it goes. Food in the fridge is important. So is fire in the belly. Yeah, that was hectic. Yo, this one.
Yeah. I think this may have come from, I don't think it was a direct quote. I think like I was like thinking about it one day, and I think I was just probably like unhappy with my role or the company I was working for at that point in time. So it was really just a commentary on like it's important to earn a salary, or it's important to have like income coming in, but it's not more important than like being excited about what you do. So that's where the fire in the belly comes from. And again, like there may be seasons in your career where you just have to tough it out, and that most likely is going to be articles where I would say most people don't enjoy their articles. And maybe that's just a blanket statement without substantiated data. I mean, maybe we can run a survey of article trainees, but I would say like sometimes you really do just have to keep the food in the fridge and like know that that fire in the belly period is going to come down the line. But I think it's very important to not get in that trap, that golden handcuff trap that some people get in, where they just focus on the food in the fridge and getting a bigger fridge and getting more food and upgrading the food, and they forget about the fire in the belly, what makes them passionate, what do they really want to do in this world. Because I don't know if maybe I shouldn't talk about religion, but like my point of view is this is like the only life you're going to get. There's no afterlife. Like literally nothing happens when you die. You just get eaten by worms. So might as well, like this is heaven. Like you're in heaven now, so you might as well take advantage of it and not settle. So I'm sorry if I offended anyone with that line, but I think just using that framework of like this is heaven, like you can make the best or the worst out of what you've currently got, your short time on this planet, and you shouldn't let corporates put those golden handcuffs on you and get addicted to the food in the fridge, because that is not what's going to give you the juice of life.
People get I love that you said that. Addicted to the food in the fridge.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
like even if you're not,
it's obviously a metaphor, right? Like, you know, obviously there are people that really are addicted to food and all that kind of stuff, but like this is a metaphor, you know, for, you know, golden handcuffs, salary, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that goes back to kind of the reason why I left banking, because I knew that there is a tipping point where you just can't leave.
And I love you, dude. You get addicted to the food in the fridge. There's no other quick fix. This is just a plier. There's no one else. Like, boss,
Yeah.
like give me the next hit. This one is so crazy, dude. Oh my goodness. Like, and before I even say this one, you said here 2 years ago, capturing thoughts and ideas in a centralized and accessible way is the most underrated hack hiding in plain sight. I use Evernote like a second brain to capture creative inspiration for later use. It makes me feel like Dumbledore. Over here, you were a magician. You were like Harry Potter in his prime. But yeah, just listen up, guys. To be continued in part 5. See you next week.